In this video, we're going to show you how to install a fuel tank filler neck on your Cadillac Escalade located on the driver's side rear of the vehicle. Open up the rear cargo door of the vehicle and you're going to access this cup holder on the back of the vehicle on the driver's side. Remove the tray by reaching right here and pulling up. Pop this out. And down inside, you're going to locate the bag of the tools that you need. There's just a spin dial over here. Inside this pocket is all of your jack components for the vehicle. And this is what we're looking for, the jack rod kit. Now, if your back bumper has this center section here, you want to go ahead and remove it. If you follow this panel down and reach underneath, there's going to be a little knob. You're going to turn that counterclockwise about a quarter of a turn. Over on the other side of it, you're going to do the same. You're going to gently grab that panel and pull down. Then you're going to pull the panel down, releasing these 4 tabs from the bumper itself. Right here is the jack access panel. If you have a plastic trim tool, go ahead and get behind there. We want to pop this off. You're going to locate a lock cylinder right here, use your ignition key, and then pull this out. This is going to allow access to use your jack tool to lower your spare tire. Now, in the jack tool bag, you're going to find these 3 rods. You're going to go through these 3 rods and you're going to identify the one rod that has this tab on it. Don't use it. You're going to take the other 2, going to install like so, push in that tab, lock it together. What you're going to use is the side here with the open square. Insert this in, rotate it gently, and you can feel it interlock with the jack. Use your jack handle. Make sure that this part here of the handle is facing outward, otherwise you're going to hit the vehicle. Lock that on, spin it counterclockwise. This is going to lower the spare tire down. And once it gets down to a good safe point, we're going to disengage the jack cable from the spare and roll that away. So we're going to remove the unit here. Remove the spare and set it aside. While your vehicle is raised up and supported, I'm going to go ahead and rotate our wheel until we have a notch lining up from our center cap onto our wheel. Use your tool and pry off the center cap. Then we're going to use a 22mm socket to loosen and remove these lug nuts. Once you have those lug nuts off, go ahead and grab that wheel, remove it, and set it aside. With the rear wheel removed, we're going to go ahead and remove our 3 7mm screws on the fender liner. We're just going to use our socket. You can use any size ratchet. We're just using our mini ratchet right here. Go ahead and zip these screws out. We're going to switch over to our power tool to speed things up. Once you have those 3 out, we're now going to use our trim tool and remove the plastic buttons, the retainers here. You need to pop out the center section first. And then pop out the base. Let's go ahead and move to the inner portion here. This is just a tree style retainer. It does not have a center section to remove. That's it right there. We're going to use our 7mm socket and remove the remainder of the screws. There's one here on the upper portion of the fender. And then we're going to come down to the front side. Let's go ahead and remove these now. Use our trim tool right at the bottom here. This has one of the removable center buttons, followed by the base. And then if we move our way back up into the arch, there is one of these tree style buttons again. Go ahead and pop that out. And go ahead and just start to pull this liner down. Drop it down and set it aside. With the fender liner gone, you're going to locate your shock mount, and the bolt we want to go to is right back here behind the shock on the frame. It's a 13mm, and this holds the bracket to the fuel filler neck. So we're going to go ahead and put our 13mm on there. We did spray down some rust penetrant because, well, we want to make sure we don't break that off inside the frame. Good, spin out that bolt and we'll set that aside. We will be reusing this. Open up your gas cap door. Going to remove our filler cap. That's going to give us access to the 3 7mm screws here. We're going to use our wobbly socket here, 7mm socket. Loosen and remove these 3 screws. That'll allow us to push this down and in when the time comes to pull this out. I'm going to go ahead and just tuck a rag into this here. This is going to help prevent extra vapors from coming out. But we don't want to put the cap back on it because we won't be able to pull this out from the other end when the time comes. Once again, always make sure that you're working in a well-ventilated area when you're working with an open fuel system. Now on the inside portion here where we have our filler neck, just to the right of it, we have a couple of hoses attached to a unit, and we're going to use our pry tool, and we want to separate this from the filler neck. There it is there. So this is the little tree that we just removed. We can go ahead and drop this down. Attached to the fuel filler hose here, there is this loom right here that is attached via a plastic tie strap. We are going to snip that. Because we do have to separate that. Now following the fuel filler neck down here, you can see that this loom is also attached to the filler neck. So I want to go ahead and snip that as well. Now over to the top side of our fuel tank, we have a vapor line right here, and then we have the filler hose right here that is attached to the tank. Now this side here, basically what you need to do is pinch this, and it's going to release the lower and upper locking tab. I find sometimes you can go ahead and use a pair of pliers and just gently squeeze this and then pop this out. But you do have to make sure you get it just right, just like that. We're gonna use an 8mm socket. You can use a flathead screwdriver as well to go ahead and loosen the hose clamp on our filler neck. Now this rubber hose goes up above the cradle here and it attaches to another hose clamp up top. It is easier to disconnect it right off of the tank. And we'll remove it all as one, and then we'll separate them afterwards. So I just slid the clamp up here to get it out of the way. Now what we're going to do is we're going to work this up and off. You want to go ahead and maybe use a glove. We're going to slide it over the fuel tank and we're going to run a plastic wire tie on it to keep the fuel vapors at bay. We're going to continue to work on this and then remove the filler neck. At this point here, we're going to go ahead and remove our filler neck. Go ahead and grab that trusty rubber glove, pop that on there. Okay, that's sealed off. If we follow our ground wire down, it attaches right here to the body mount on the chassis. There's gonna be 3 wires attached to it. We just need to get that one off there. Now right above the cross member here, we have a 13mm bolt holding our lower portion of our filler neck. So we're going to use our swivel head 13mm gear wrench to get to it because a socket and ratchet won't fit up in there. There we go. Now that we have that bolt out, I'm going to set that aside. And we should be able to start maneuvering our filler neck out. Now with that clamp unbolted from up top here, we're going to take the filler neck and we're going to pull it towards the front. It's now going to expose this clamp here. We're going to be able to get to that nice and easy. Use your 8mm, go ahead, loosen, and we're going to pull this hose off. Just have to try and maneuver. There we go. On the filler neck here, we have our vent hose. There's going to be a 1/4 inch or flathead screwdriver on this clamp. I'm going to use a pair of hose pliers here, grab a hold of that, give that a good twist, and then work that off. Once that's off, inspect that hose clamp. Make sure it is usable. If it is rusted or stripping out, replace that. To work your way along the fill tube, you want to go ahead and cut the tie straps, holding this in place. go ahead and get this ready to install. Inspect the hose, make sure it's not splitting or dry rotted or anything. Push that up and on. Secure the clamp. Make sure that's good and snug. At this point, go ahead and grab some wire ties, and we're going to go ahead and secure this along the tube. Go ahead and cut off any of the little remaining pigtails. Let's go ahead and feed this back up into the vehicle. We're going to feed our vent line and our filler neck up above here. I'm going to twist that up and over. Maneuver this through. Now, as you're feeding the hose through, you're going to reach up through the side of the frame here and the cross member, and you just kind of have to guide the bracket through with the vent line, as well as turning this at the same time. So when you're feeding the hose through, there are wiring harnesses that you need to manipulate the fuel filler neck around to get up into place. And I reach up across the top of the cross member here, make sure there's no hoses or anything like that interfering with the mounting bracket. And it does mate up to it nice. So we're going to pull this through. Let's install our rubber hose on the filler neck to the fuel tank. And take our fill pipe here. Work that on. Okay. Now we can feed the filler neck portion up. We're going to bend the flex hose or the rubber hose up by the body side so we can get this bracket back. Let's go ahead and remove our cover here off of the tank itself. We're going to cut our strap here. Remove that. Now that we have our cover removed, here's a very big tip. On the top of this filler neck, right about 12 o'clock, there's going to be a half moon notch or a tab on there, where on the hose, there's going to be a notch in this here that lines up with this. So when you put this on, you're going to feed this down, feel around the top side here, and make sure that that hose lines up with that tab on that filler neck. Once it does, you know that you have everything lined up as far as the hose goes. We'll come back and secure these two clamps later on. I am going to go ahead and install this vent hose right here. You just line it up, push it on. You can hear it and feel it snap into place. Now at this point, we're going to go ahead and take our 13mm bolt. We need to reach up on the top and locate that bracket and get this bolt started. So we're going to reach up, get it into the hole in the bracket, and you are definitely going to have to grab that filler neck and kind of move that around a little bit to get that hole to line up. Once you get that bolt started, we use our 13mm gear wrench to go ahead and snug that down. Once you get that bolt started, go ahead and get your gear wrench on there. And what we ended up doing to get that lined up is we ended up grabbing the other end of the fuel filler neck behind us, going up to the body and pulling the hose over to the driver's side to get it lined up. And once we did that, that bolt lined right up. All right, go ahead and snug that down. Now the bracket that we're tightening down comes over the filler neck, and there's a tab that goes into a hole on the other side of this cross member. Pretty much when you line up that tab in that hole, the hole for the bracket itself generally lines up itself. So go ahead and get that secured like that. I'm just going to position our clamps here. Let's go ahead and install the other bracket on the other end of this hose. Just going to grab our filler neck, feed this up inside. Go ahead and get that lined up, and we're going to get a couple of the screws started. I'm going to get the 2 lower screws started here just to hold this up and in place. With that up in place, we're going to tuck a rag in there because we don't want anything falling down inside. Just tuck that in for now. Now for the upper bracket here, go ahead and get that bolt started. And we'll go ahead and snug that down. All right, once that bolt bottoms out, got to make sure that's good and snug. We're now going to install the 3rd screw. Remove our rag here, tighten down the other 2. Take that gas cap. We're going to install our vapor hose component here. There it is. I'm going to install a couple ties here. All right, now that we have that secured up in place, I'm just going to cut off that pigtail. Go ahead and grab that ground strap, bring that down. Now put our bolt through it. Make sure you catch those other 2 ground straps here and get that bolt in. And go ahead and tighten that down. Make sure it's good and snug. Let's go ahead and secure our lower filler neck hose clamp. Something like this, you want to double check the hose clamp, make sure it is in good condition. If it is rusty or something is going on with it, it's not tightening properly, definitely replace it. I'll make sure that's good and snug. Let's go ahead and repeat this process for the other end. All right, our hose clamps are both secure. Let's go ahead and install our fender liner here. Now the upper portion goes up behind the fender. Tuck that in. Going to install a couple screws in the back here to hold this. I'm not going to tighten this down. I just want to get these started. Get these two in, and now go ahead. I'm going to insert button on the bottom. What we'll do is we'll just visually do a quick inspection around, make sure that the other screw holes line up and everything is looking good. So we'll snug these two down here. Once these bottom out, just give them a little bit more. They don't have to be super, super tight, but you do want to make sure that they're fully seated. The top center up here, we'll go ahead and install this here. On the back, we have this push button right here. This is just the standard tree. It does not have the center section that pops out. Pop that in. Okay, let's go ahead and slowly start to move towards the back section. I'm going to go ahead and install our tree on the back, the horizontal position from the other one. Pop that into place. I'm going to move to the back lip over here. I'm going to install these screws. Before I tighten down these two here, let's go ahead and install the rear one right here. On the lower portion, we're going to install our plastic push pin. Push in the base, pop in the center. Now that's all lined up, let's go ahead and snug down these three screws again here. And there, our fender liner is installed. Install your wheel. Now let's go ahead and get all of your lug nuts started. Once we get them all started by hand, we're going to come back and snug them down. Just getting torqued down your wheels to 140 foot-pounds. You want to do this in a crisscross pattern. Go ahead and take your center cap, locate one of the notches, and you want to line that up with one of the notches in your wheel. Once you have that lined up, go ahead and pop it on. Install the spare tire hoist. You're gonna have to tilt up that wheel. Once you have that set up inside there, I'm going to go ahead and put our jack handle in through the bumper and crank this up. Now you want to go ahead and continue to crank this up. You will want to guide this and make sure that it's right inside the pocket where it needs to go. And then once it's seated, you just want to give it a little bit more tension just to lock it into place. There you go. Lock that into place. Install your cover. Take these 4 tabs, you want to line them up in the bottom side underneath the chrome strip. Push it in, and then you have your little lock tabs on the bottom. You want to turn those quarter turn clockwise. Give it a little tug, make sure it's secured. Go ahead and reinstall all of your jack rods into the toolkit. All right, let's put this back in the tool tray where we got it from. Now we lowered our tools down inside. We have our retaining clamp here. You want to make sure you secure this properly so you don't hear clunking tools while you're driving. Okay, once that's secure, go ahead and grab that tray mount here, slide that front section in first, and then push down on the back. At this point here, you've now completed the job.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.